Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Stillwater. We are a diverse religious community seeking spiritual experience and all forms of knowledge in an atmosphere of acceptance, love, and respect. Our mission is to protect and perpetuate religious freedom, tolerance, and knowledge, to challenge injustice, and to nurture and serve one another and the wider community. This morning, we have a special treat. I'm out of date. Our service leader will be Shiitake Mama, and the entire service is planned by her. Musicians, Annye Love, Doug Williams, and the UU congregation. I believe that's all I have to announce. Okay, we'll continue with announcements, and I get to relax for the rest of the service.
Okay, let's start with some thank yous. I hope everybody got a chance to see the flower beds in front. If you didn't, make a point of seeing them. They are so wonderful. Buildings and Grounds has been given a big load of tasks to accomplish, and we're making so much progress. John Little is the chair of Buildings and Grounds, but I know he's getting tons of help from other people. Downstairs, the two rooms that had the craziest flooring now have new flooring. And it is so awesome. You just should look at it before the furniture gets moved back in, because it's got that new car smell, right? You know, love this stuff. Thank you. The board is scheduled to meet this Tuesday, May 12th at 6:30. The agenda hasn't been posted on the bulletin board yet? No? Okay. Anyway, I don't know. This Wednesday, May 13th, pack a brown bag lunch and join the women's luncheon group at noon in the church social room. For more information on that, see Sandy Schultz. Next Sunday's sermon will be provided by Reverend Susan Ross. Her sermon title will be Rooted. As she mentioned in the May newsletter, we live among them, we need them. Do they also need us? Or if not, is it possible they want us around? An Arbor Day sermon when it's not. Next Sunday is our traditional monthly after-church potluck, so keep that in mind as you do your meal planning this week. We will be having a forum on Sunday, May 17th at 12:30. Haridas Heights will be discussing the dimension of being. The dimension of being is far more than what we think we are. True inner peace and joy arise when we discover this more, and it is here all the time. If you have an announcement, please come forward and use a microphone.
Hi, good morning. Is this on? Okay.
Yeah, I can.
I got a random PayPal payment on the 26th from somebody named Mary K. Thornton. And it had an email attached to the email address. Do you know who that is? Oh, okay. Can I talk to you afterwards about it? Things I wasn't sure what it was for. Okay. Thank you so much.
Mystery being resolved. Any other announcements? Okay. hiding things from myself, sorry. Our church is one of 6 faith organizations that informally formed an alliance to support Payne County Pride. The other faith organizations are 3 churches, St. Andrew's Episcopal, Salem Lutheran, and First Presbyterian, along with Wesley Campus Ministry and Grace Out of Bounds in Oklahoma City, Jonathan Drummond's ministry. Let me tell you briefly how that came about. In March 2024, Reverend Susan Ross emailed Mike Smolin. She had planned to attend a meeting the next morning at Salem Lutheran Church, along with people from the faith organizations I mentioned, to help Payne County Pride organize the Pride Festival, but she couldn't go. Mike couldn't go, so he forwarded it to the board. I was on the board and available, so about 12 hours after Susan sent her email, I was in that meeting. A little serendipity in my life. The Pride Festival took place in June. Job done. 2 months later, Pat Darlington from Salem Lutheran Church reconvened our faith alliance to explore the possibility of continuing to work together, and spent the next few months searching for meaningful ways to reach out. In November 2024, we found an opportunity with the Gender and Sexuality Alliance at Stillwater High School. Under Pat's leadership, both last school year and this one, we provided lunches for GSA's monthly meetings. The number of students attending has doubled. We also sponsored and had representatives at their December holiday parties and their end of school year parties in May. What started as some individuals from a few faith communities helping Payne County Pride organize the 2024 Pride Festival has evolved into a group of about 26 allies, including Donna Sinnis, Sherry Kern, and myself, with a mission. As Pat Darlington said just this past week, our real mission is to see these young people and to be seen by them as adult persons who belong to communities of faith who are not out to judge or convert or shame them. Secondarily, we are there to see each other, to know other people who believe in being welcoming and affirming of all people. It lifts our hearts to know we're not alone. I am honored to work with such people.
Oh, that's me. In all things there is love. In all things there is connection, one to another, human, tree, plant, animals, insects, grass and grains, sun and earth, minerals and microbes, all in motion, all in connection. There is only one song. We all sing our parts, desiring beauty, harmony, the freedom to improvise, and all enjoy together. Come on in. Come, whoever you are. Oh, wait a minute. We have the offertory. No, we don't have a prelude today. So now we have the story for all ages. Greg. Well, perhaps I made a mistake and spoke too early. Oh, I put my thing up there. Then singing the children's choir? No, the offertory? I better look.
Oh, I believe so. Good morning. So, my name is Greg Winnie, and the story I will be reading today is titled The Boy Who Draws Cats. So, a little background to it. The story is deeply tied to Zen Buddhism, originally known as Ha-Neko. The core of the story is widely believed to be based on a 15th century legend surrounding a real person, Sesshu Toyo. In 1898, Lafcadio Hearn translated the Japanese fairy tale into English and published it as part of a collection of Japanese folklore. All right, so here it goes. Once, in a small village in Japan, there lived a boy who was, to put it politely, completely useless on a farm. He wasn't lazy, he was just small, and his brain seemed to be tuned to a different frequency that didn't involve planting rice. Instead, he drew cats. He drew them on the dirt, on the sides of barns, and eventually on the temple's sacred scrolls. His parents, realizing he'd never be much of a laborer, handed him over to the local priest to be educated. The priest was a kind man, but he had a limit on how many ink-sketched felines he could tolerate on his furniture. One morning, he set the boy down and said, "Look, you're a good kid, but you're a terrible acolyte. You don't study, you just draw cats. I think you're in the wrong profession." As the boy packed his ink and brushes to leave, the priest gave him one cryptic piece of advice. Avoid large places at night. Keep to the small ones. The boy had no idea what that meant, but in the interest of not being rude, he nodded his head and walked out into the rain. The boy left the temple, not knowing where to go. He knew he couldn't face the shame of having to return home. Plus, he knew deep in his heart he wouldn't make a good farmer, and being a monk wasn't for him either. So he picked a direction and started walking. He walked for miles until he reached a massive mountaintop temple that had been abandoned for years. He didn't stop to question why such a massive, beautiful temple was abandoned. He just saw a lot of empty white paper screens that were practically begging to be drawn on. He spent the whole evening painting cats, big ones, small ones, cats with sharp claws and focused eyes, even one with a cane and a strange hat worn at a jaunty angle. By the time his need to draw cats was satisfied, he was exhausted. The temple was pitch black and very, very quiet. The silence started to feel a bit too heavy, and he remembered the priest's strange advice: avoid large places at night. The main hall was enormous, so he found a tiny storage cabinet, crawled inside, and pulled the door shut. In the middle of the night, a horrific struggle broke out. He heard the sounds of something massive thrashing around, the tearing of paper, and the most blood-curdling screeches he had ever heard. He stayed in that tiny cabinet, holding his breath until the morning sun finally poked through the cracks in the wood. When he stepped out, he found a monster goblin rat the size of a bull lying defeated in the center of the hall. He looked at the screens he had painted the night before. The cats weren't quite where he'd left them, and their claws were tipped with something deep, dark, and red. The one with the cane and the strange brim hat appeared to be winking at him, his hat at an even more jaunty angle than before. The boy didn't go back to the farm, and he never became a priest. He became a world-renowned artist, proving that sometimes the useless things you love to do are exactly the things that will save your life.
Now time for the offertory, and this month's collection goes, a portion of this month's collection goes to Wings of Hope. Blessed, meaning it is a boon, it is a gift. We are all blessed to have it, we are blessed to give it, and those who receive it are blessed. We are grateful. Okay, let's take a moment to breathe together and center ourselves. Am I too close to you?
No, you're fine.
Thank you, Susan Bullard, for inviting me to lead the service today. And thank you, Annye, for learning the music, which was not easy.
Do you want to use the mic?
I have the mic on.
Oh, okay, okay. I just
Oh.
didn't see it.
I turned it on. I thought I turned it on. Am I on now? Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here today as Reverend Shiitake Mama. It's an online ordination that I got so I could officiate at Lynn and Ron Fiesel's wedding. And it turned out that I'm legally obligated to have one to do my spiritual psychic counseling. So it all worked out. Well, today's Mother's Day. I'm not honorary. Excuse me, technical difficulties. Maybe I can, I'll go back here, let him fix me.
Can we line up?
That's good.
Well, heck. There's no battery. We have the power of the all it is.
Well, then I could take this off, correct? No, thank you. Da 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 da.
Is this improv?
Okay, today is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. Our being and living and loving was shaped by our mothers and our fathers. And mothers, your loving and teaching influences the happiness and well-being of all people and other beings through your children's parts in the one song, because we are all connected. Many of us in this room have lost our mothers. And most of us, I hope, who have not lost our mothers will outlive our mothers. My mother left in 1992, and all of us, each of us will die, pass on, cross over, transition, or as Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God, calls it, we will graduate. And on our graduation, on their graduation, on our whoever passes, graduation day, we should be happy and celebrate and have a party. And like the hundreds of OSU graduates, including Eric, congratulations. When we graduate this earthly life, we go on to bigger, broader experiences, whatever it is that comes next for each of us. When my Jewish mother was young, I think probably junior high through high school, her best friend, Julie, was a Christian. This is not important to their relationship, but it's important to the story later, that she and her family were devout Christians. Julie's mother was my Aunt Bertie. You know how children are taught to call, in those days, call their parents' friends aunt and uncle. And Aunt Bertie was a well-known psychic in Los Angeles. from the 1920s into the 1950s. And when I was in the 4th grade, which means that I was 9, she came to visit us in Lawton, where my father was stationed at Fort Sill. My mother took Aunt Bertie to the commissary, and my mother was pushing the cart down the aisle, and here comes a friend of my mother's pushing her cart down the aisle toward them, and my mother introduces them. And my Aunt Bertie said, "A woman, blonde, M, walks with a limp." And the woman said, "Well, that's my sister Mary, but she's been gone for years." And my Aunt Bertie said, "Your sister Mary says to tell you, and here's the message." And when they came back from the grocery store and told me the story, I never disbelieved that we have contact with people on the other side. Fast forward to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and I am now in high school. And my mother is teaching French and Spanish at OSU. Every summer she takes students to Monterrey, Mexico to study Spanish. My father and I join her there, and after the summer school is over, we go to Cuernavaca, where Julie, who is also Aunt Julie, is living. God told her to go to Cuernavaca, and knowing no one, she packed up and went to Cuernavaca, where she met a man, and they became deeply in love. Aunt Julie told us the story that her mother had died, and told us the story of the death of her husband, Raymond. Raymond weighed 300 pounds, and he was a chiropractor, and despite his bulk, he was fairly light on his feet. He was light-hearted, very funny. His fingers were light on the piano keys as he played, and he composed music, published it, and made recordings. Aunt Bertie knew the time when Raymond would graduate, when he would graduate. And he decided he would go to his chiropractic conference anyway, and he went. And at the time that this was supposed to happen, he went into a phone booth and called Aunt Julie, and sure enough, he graduated while he was talking to her on the phone. Sometime later, not too long, he spoke through Aunt Bertie. And he said, "I was floating up in the air over the room, and I could see the phone booth. It was pretty funny." Remember, he weighs 300 pounds. It was pretty funny how they had to lay the phone booth down and take it apart to get my body out. And then he found himself floating in a dark tunnel. And he said he heard beautiful, beautiful music. And he could see this light. And as he approached the light, it was a brilliant, brilliant white light. And there was Christ to meet him. And he said, I don't have this word, but the feeling of it is enveloped, saturated, surrounded by. My graduate advisor said, if the technology goes wrong 3 times, God didn't mean for you to do it. Okay, so we've heard that story a number of times about the tunnel and the light and being met by someone that you love. Okay. So, Neil Donald Walsh says we should be very happy for our loved ones when they graduate. But we, who are left, we suffer their loss. They expand and go on to whatever is next for them. But what comes next for us? Grief and bereavement. Grief happens here. You know, our throats catch, we tighten here, tears come unbidden. Bereavement comes here. A part of our heart is gone. It is riven. This cannot be overcome. This sadness, this sorrow cannot be overcome, but it can heal. It heals with time. It leaves a scar of the sadness, a pulling or a tugging at the remembered bereavement. The life experiences with the lost ones become gifts of loving and being loved. It is not easy, and yet the healing grace of loving are in themselves. The healing and grace of loving are in themselves spiritual gifts. Last week, I had lunch with Judy and Greg Kale, who were members of this church, but they wanted something that was more conservative and more Christian in their church, but we're still friends. And Judy lost her first child 20 years ago, and then her youngest child about 3 years ago. And I said, Judy, do you still get seized by grief? And she said, no, but when I see their pictures, I have this sadness, the scar. So I want to honor our grief and bereavement with this poem, All Souls, by Mary Sarton, from Collected Poems 1930 to 1973, published by W.W. Norton and Company. All Souls by May Sarton. Did someone say that there would be an end? An end, oh, an end to love and mourning? Such voices speak when sleep and waking blend, the cold, bleak voices of early morning when all the birds are dumb in dark November. Remember and forget, forget, remember. And after the false night, warm, true voices wake, voice of the dead that touches the cold living through the pale sunlight, once more gravely speak. Tell me again, while the last leaves are falling. Dear child, what has been once so interwoven cannot be raveled, nor the gift ungiven. Now the dead move through all of us, still glowing, mother and child, lover and lover mated, all wound and bound together and enflowing. What has been plated cannot be unplated. Only the strands grow richer, and with each loss and memory makes kings and queens of us. Dark into light, light into darkness, spin. When all the birds have flown to some real haven, we who find shelter in the warmth within listen and feel new cherished and new forgiven, as the lost human voices speak through us and blend our complex love, our mourning without end. So, that is our side of the story. What comes next for us after loss? And for those who pass, who graduate, what comes next for them and for us when we cross over? John Burke, an author and Christian pastor who wrote Imagine Heaven, interviewed on every continent almost 1,500 people who had an NDE, a near-death experience, when they were clinically dead. They said they were more alive than ever, in a place more real than ever, and in the presence of the love that they consistently said they had always wanted. 48 of them said they had experienced what they thought of or called the love of God, and it was astounding. Burke found key commonalities in his research, and his commonalities aligned with the research of Jeffrey Long, a radiation oncologist and researcher who wrote Evidence of the Afterlife, the Science of Near-Death Experiences. Dr. Long interviewed over 1,300 people and identified 9 universal patterns found across NDE cases regardless of age, culture, or religion. Out-of-body experience, feeling detached from the physical body, often with visual clarity. Heightened senses, sensory perceptions that feel more vivid or real than everyday life. Intense positive emotions, overwhelming feelings of peace, joy, or unconditional love. Passing through a tunnel, moving through a dark space toward a brilliant light. Encountering a light, meeting a mystical or being of light that emanates warmth. Meeting deceased relatives, seeing and communicating with loved ones who have passed away. Altered sense of time and space, feeling that time has ceased to exist or has dilated. Life review, the panoramic replay of one's life events and their impact on others. And entering a heavenly realm, visiting beautiful, otherworldly landscapes before they were told to return. Doug and I have had a friend, Mark Phillips, who was very instrumental in our becoming mushroom growers. And Mark had a heart condition, and he died on the operating table. And he was someplace. He was someplace beautiful, again, feeling this love coming to him. And he was, he was met by someone there who told him that he had to come back. At the same time that Mark was having the surgery, a friend of his was in a park in Arkansas and gathered people, strangers, and asked them to please join hands with him and make a circle and send, I guess he said prayers, energy, who knows, to Mark. And Mark said he felt the pull of that. And when he was told that he had to come back because he had more to do here, he didn't want to come. But that was the right thing to do, to come, because not too long after his daughter graduated from high school, he graduated from here. Abraham Hicks, you may have heard of Abraham Hicks. Esther Hicks is a woman who channels a collective consciousness. And Abraham Hicks said that dying was like being held in a tight fist, and the fist opens, and there is freedom and great expansion. Lynn Harden came here and took part in a forum that Ellen and I did on what happens at the moment of death and what happens right after death. And she had died twice. And she said, I'm getting chills right now, maybe she's psychically visiting me, and she said, our consciousness joins the one consciousness. Amanita mushrooms, those of you who don't know me, I channel mushrooms. And the Amanita mushrooms said that if people take them in a frivolous way and die, that their consciousness joins the one consciousness. And then they also said that if people take us in a sacred way, their consciousness joins the one consciousness. In a famous now study by Johns Hopkins researchers, people who were terminally ill and in very controlled circumstances took psilocybin mushrooms lost their fear of death. When my mother was dying, and it took her 2 years from the time that it became clear that she was not going to eat, was not going to walk, was not going to take any measure toward living, and then and then this was in March or May, I guess, and she woke up in November and she said, I haven't had anything to eat for 3 months. It had actually been more than 3 months, and she just started whuffing food. And I had said to her, the only thing between you and death is food. And she just started taking in food and taking in food. So she had said many times, oh, I've had a good life, and it's time for me to go, and I'm not scared, I'm not worried. But she said to Doug, I know it's hard on all of you, but I am so frightened. So I started bringing in little tidbits of things to help ease that. And the one story that I remember is a Buddhist story. Would you hold this for me? Thank you. Is a Buddhist story of having a teacup full of tea. The teacup breaks, but the tea is still tea. And that seemed to be calming to my mother. Bill Letson, a firefighter who died from too much intravenous medication and later recovered, describes during his near-death experience a man who appeared to him. The man had laughing eyes and an incredible ecstatic smile, a big laugh. Bill said, when he came forward toward me, my throat just tightened and my chest expanded, and I thought I was going to break down in uncontrollable crying from love. There was so much love pouring from this being that it was overwhelming. So, in the voice of someone who is about to graduate, let us sing the first song. Please stand as you are able. And I regret that I was unable to get a streaming license, so those of you who, I forgot the camera is up there and not behind you, Alicia. So that those of you who are watching this online won't hear it, and you will have another video instead. We acknowledge that we have fulfilled our curriculum and we're approaching our graduation. We are willing to fly away. What comes next? We are not alone. we are invited to cross. Someone or some entity may come to us to encourage us or accompany us. Writer, pastor, and public speaker Gary Kinnaman says, heaven comes to people and their loved ones when they are dying. It is not uncommon for angels to appear when people are on the edge of death. Tulsa native Joy Harjo of the Muskogee Nation is an internationally renowned performer and writer and one of my favorites. She served 3 terms as the 23rd Poet Laureate of the United States. And I read a poem in which she said, when her daughter was in the hospital dying, an angel appeared at the foot of her bed. My grandmother was in a coma, and her death was imminent. So my dad was at the nursing home to be there. And he said, suddenly, she sat bolt upright, and her eyes were wide and shining, and she was looking at something past his shoulder, and this big, beautiful smile came on her face, and she fell back and died. There was a woman here in town that somebody told me about, and I went to see her, and she was a psychic. And I had questions about my dad. He was living with us, and it was a difficult situation. And I had gone to her, I think to meet her. I don't know that I had any intention. And so I told her about him, and she said she wanted to come over and meet him. Well, it was his 98th birthday coming up in September. And she came to we had a little gathering there at the house, and he was in his recliner. And she stooped down beside him and put her arm on his arm on the recliner and said, there are people over on the other side, and they're wearing party hats, and they're gesturing for you to come over. Well, he had an accident, and he lost a lot of blood, and he was in the hospital, and he had that spurt of energy that in my training in death and dying we think might be the energy that's gathering for the spirit to leave. And so he was sitting up, he was coherent, he was laughing, talking to people, and I called everyone and I said, if you want to see him, come today. And she came, Rachel came. And again, she sat down, squatted down. Squatted is not a good image there. Bent down by the edge, by the side of the chair, put her hand on his arm and said, there are people waiting for you on the other side, and they're wearing party hats, and they're gesturing for you to come over. And he passed in about 2 days. Graduated in about 2 days. Pat Webb, who came here to do a lay service and also did a forum for us on the Silence Foundation. Her husband, David McCluskey, didn't feel well. He went to the ER, and wham, he had 4th stage cancer. And he was in his 80s, I think his mid to late 80s, and he didn't want to treat it. He wanted to die naturally, and he wanted to die mindfully. And it was 40 days from the diagnosis till his graduation. And she was writing a book about this experience. And she said at the moment right before he died that this pink light seemed to fill the room. Well, I'm the editor. And I said, seemed? Was it there or not? She said, okay, this pink light filled the room. Well, in the living room, that they were Buddhists, and in the living room was the Sangha, the community of practice. Annye was there. And when I said this story, she said that she was there and that she saw the light coming through the door. So, let us now be the inviters. Let us now take the part of the inviters, of the people, angels, entities, or energies, inviting the person to enter the spirit realm. Please stand as you are willing or able and sing hymn number 361, which we sang just last week, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. We will sing the first verse, the fourth verse, which is Don't Be Afraid of Some Change, and then the last verse. Got it? Okay, thank you, Annye. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of the change. Don't be afraid of the change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was wonderful. Okay, the people who have NDEs often don't want to come back to be the tea held in the cup or to be the spirit held tightly in the fist. Eben Alexander is a brain surgeon who wrote one of the best-known books on near-death experience, Proof of Heaven. He contracted a rare form of bacterial meningitis and his brain shut down completely. Eventually, he made a full recovery. He said he entered another realm of the infinite, the eternal, the unchanging. No time, no space, only infinite, boundless love. He encountered a divine, all-loving presence he called the Creator, a force, not a figure, an overwhelming feeling of home. He said, I saw a slowly spinning white light that came packaged with a perfect musical melody. And as it was slowly spinning and came toward me, it opened up like a rip and led up to this brilliant, ultra-real gateway valley. This world sharp and crystal clear, beauty beyond description. Thousands of beings dancing in a meadow, incredible joy and festivity. I remember vividly dogs jumping, children playing, and all of this festivity was being fueled from above by these swooping orbs of pure, kind of oval spiritual beings. And when I came back to this world, I called them angelic choirs. These swooping angelic choirs were emanating chants, anthems, hymns that would just thunder through my awareness. It was a spiritual home that was very welcoming. Bill Letzen, the firefighter that we talked about earlier, said, I was flying through a star-filled realm, and there were all these magnificent stars, orbs all around me, and they were so welcoming, and it was like I was being paraded through. I felt everything a human ever wants to feel, just acceptance and love and joy and being held. I felt like I'd been released from a hot, dark closet, and I was a huge, expanded cloud. The thought of going back was out of the question. I have a friend in Oklahoma City. Her name is Colleen. And some years ago, her friend Yon, who was in his 80s, and I think Colleen was probably maybe in her 40s, and they were each other's family. They both had no historical family that they were connected to. So they were each other's family. And he had come to Oklahoma City to live with Colleen for the last several months of his life. He was not in terrible pain. He was not suffering. He was just old and tired. And one day he said, I had this dream, and I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and there's a huge chasm, and way over on the other side, I could see the other side of the cliff, and maybe people, maybe a row of people standing on the cliff. Another day he said, I had that dream again, and this time the cliff was much closer, and I could recognize the people. And one night, he was asleep, and she was lying in the bed next to him. And he woke up, and he said, I had that same dream. It was much closer. They were just right here in front of me, and they were wearing party hats and gesturing for me to come over. He said, it's so close, I can step over. And within a short while that night, he did. So now let us take on the part of the welcomers. Let us be happy and celebrate. And let's have a party and welcome the one who has just joined us. Please stand as you are able and sing the last song. And for those of you who are watching online, we can't stream this song, and instead we offer you another diversion. In closing, may we all face our graduation some time away yet. May we all face our graduation not in fear, but in faith and hope and anticipating our expansion, our graduation day. And may all the rest of us celebrate, be happy, and have a party. This ends the portion of the recorded version. we'll now have trail markers, and you are welcome to come forward and light a